One day a couple is having a typical morning. The poet struggling for new ideas and the wife reassuring him that he will eventually start writing again. Suddenly there is a knock on the door. As they open the door they see an old man standing on the porch with big luggage. The man introduces himself as a doctor and asks for a room to stay. The couple, surprised and confused, let the man inside as the husband insists on it, but little do they know that this is where all the trouble begins. From this point the husband's desire to help and look good into other people's eyes is obvious. The wife goes to grab something for the man to sleep in, and as she's picking the clothes up, she starts to hear rumbling in the basement. She gets closer and sees a shape on the wall that looks like an entrance. She continues to look at it and a loud thud from the other side of the wall shakes her up. None of that was taken seriously as she climbs upstairs and acts like nothing had happened. As they let the man stay the night, the atmosphere in the house changes and the wife starts to feel weird, sensing that the man is just trouble. As the man sets in the house, the wife can't help but feel uncomfortable with the sudden guest. Everything about the man makes the wife feel unsafe. The man smokes cigarettes, which are not allowed in the house, but that happens anyway. The wife is suddenly awakened by some strange noises. As she gets to the bathroom, she sees the man on the toilet throwing up and her husband helping him. She sees that there's nothing she can do and decides to go to bed, but before she does that, she pushes the man's lighter off the stand and behind the drawers, so the man wouldn't be able to find it and light another cigarette. The moment the wife drops the lighter, she hears a screech so painful that she begins to breathe heavily. She rushes to the toilet to grab her medicine, a yellow powder, to help her calm down her anxiety. The next morning everyone wakes up and gets ready for the day. The wife is preparing breakfast but couldn't seem to get last night's scenario out of her mind. She asks the doctor how he is feeling, to which he acts confused. Right as she's about to ask another question, she gets interrupted by the bell. At the door stood a woman. The doctor sees her and goes to greet her. This is when the couple finds out that the woman at the door is the doctor's wife. As they are caught up in the conversation, the fire alarm starts beeping and the wife rushes to the kitchen as she finds the breakfast burning. The doctor's wife rushes to take the pan of the stove, but she burns herself. The wife gives her some ice and they sit in the living room for some tea and sweets. They finish up with the tea and the wife goes into a room to continue painting the wall when the doctor's wife interrupts her. They sip on some lemonade when the doctor's wife starts asking personal questions. After some bickering, the doctor's wife apologizes and asks for a house tour. As they are wandering around the house, the doctor's wife spots the room of the poet. She gets excited and tries to get in, but the wife stops her and explains to her that nobody is allowed in that room without him. The two gentlemen appear in front of them and head out for a hike as the wives are left to do the laundry. After finishing the laundry, they both head upstairs. The wife goes to the bathroom and sees that the toilet is clogged. She tries to unclog it and a strange meat-like object in a shape of a human heart appears in the toilet. As she nudges it, the object releases a blood-like liquid and flushes itself into the toilet. She gets out of the bathroom only to spot a picture of the poet in the doctor's luggage and realizes that he didn't just stumble upon them. After that realization, she heads in the hall and sees that the doctor's wife went into the poet's room even though she was told not to. The doctor's wife is very intrigued by the human heart-shaped crystal that is in the poet's room and can't stop looking at it. The wife rushes the woman out of the room the same time the men arrive. The doctor isn't feeling well. As his wife helps him get some rest, the poet's wife pulls her husband to the side to reveal the truth to him. After she tells him what she had found, he tells her that he knows all of it because the doctor had told him himself. He was dying and his only wish was to spend some time with the poet as he was a really big fan. As they are having this conversation, they hear something break upstairs. They get to the room only to see that the crystal had been broken to pieces. The poet is very upset and kicks everybody out of the room. The wife tells the guests to leave, and as she goes to check up on her husband, she sees a horrifying image. The husband with the crystals in his hand, squeezing so hard that blood falls from his hands. The wife is frightened as she starts to hear the strange noises and starts to breathe heavily again. She rushes to the bathroom, takes her medicine, and calms down. The wife goes to check on the poet again, and he decides to seal the door's entrance so no one will be able to go into the room. After that, the wife goes to see if the couple was ready to leave, but the doctor's wife just ignores her. The wife, baffled by the attitude, heads to the living room, but is stopped by a young man's voice. The man reveals himself to be one of the couple's sons. He looks for his mother and tells her that his younger brother had found the wool and was very upset by it. Right as he's telling that, the other brother walks in and they have a huge argument. The argument results into a physical fight, and as the fight progresses it gets worse. The younger brother takes the fallen door handle of the sealed doors and swings it at his brother's head. Striking him in the head a couple of times makes him unconscious. The poet and the couple take the young man to the hospital, while the poet's wife is left to clean up the bloody mess that was left behind. As she's wiping the blood from the wooden floor, she notices that the blood had made a hole in the floor, making it soft. As the wife touches it, it crumbles into the basement, making a hole and letting blood drip out of it. She heads for the basement to see where the blood was dripping at. The room is dark, so she lights up a torch only to see a huge amount of blood dripping from the light on the ceiling onto the walls and lining the entrance she previously had seen. She realizes that the blood had made it possible for her to push the wall and see what's behind it. There is a storage room where there are a lot of barrels filled with fuel. All of a sudden, she hears glass breaking and heads upstairs. She sees that the doors were open, glass was shattered, and her husband's photo that she found in the doctor's luggage had been torn apart. She is startled by the younger brother that had returned to the house. She thinks that she's in trouble, but the young man had come back for his wallet. After he goes out of the house, the poet comes back. He tells her that the young man is dead and that he had died in his arms. The couple calms down and goes to sleep. A couple of hours later, the wife is awakened by some noise. She wakes up and sees that there are people coming in the house. The poet had invited them to stay some time after their son's death and had told them to invite some friends to honor their son. The wife had already had a strange feeling about them, but little did she know that all the people in the couple will make her house a mess and her life a living hell. As more and more people gathered up in the house, it got more hectic. People would disrespect the wife to the point of driving her crazy. The sinks hadn't been done properly, and as people were sitting on it, made it loose to the point of breaking and making the water splatter everywhere. This made the wife so angry that she kicked everyone out of the house. Left to clean up the mess, the wife starts cleaning and doesn't say a word to the poet. He tells her that can be done in the morning, and they get into a fight. As they are fighting, the wife expresses that the poet doesn't show affection to her and that she would love to have a child. They make love and the wife wakes up in the morning without the usual pain in her chest. She excitingly tells the husband that she is pregnant, and they express their love for each other. After hearing the wonderful news, the poet gets up from the bed quickly. The wife follows him and sees him with pen and paper writing a poem. The poet tells her that he finally had an idea about a poem. Months passes and the poet's work have reached huge success. The copies sold in one day, and because of that, the wife decides to celebrate by preparing a dinner for the both of them. As they're setting up the table, they notice a crowd of people standing on their porch. The husband goes out to see what the fuss is all about and finds out that these people were loving fans of his. The invasion starts here as more and more people gather up in front of the poet's house, asking for validation from the poet, believing that the poem is about them. The poet loves to be worshipped and treated like a god, so he as a healer lets all of these people in his house. The wife is baffled, scared and confused as to why is the poet letting these people in the house. All hell breaks loose as people start coming in the house and taking things, saying that they need to have something of the poet's. They treat the poet as their god and follow his words. The people in the house start stealing everything from kitchen gadgets to furniture, anything they could get their hands on. One woman steals a copy of a book and a pen the poet was writing with. The wife catches her and tries to go after her. As she's going after her, she sees the woman stealing a vase from the kitchen. She tries to get to her, and they have a fight as the vase breaks and the old woman looks at her spitefully. The wife tries to call the police, but a lady takes the phone from her, justifying her action by saying that the poet had told them that they should share. The wife has had enough. She tries to find the poet to stop this craziness. When she finds the poet, she sees that the poet is enjoying this fiasco. The poet, presenting himself as a healer, marks his fans, making them think that their souls have been purified, making them believe that his words are theirs. The wife tries to get to her husband, but he isn't fazed by it. He reassures her that whatever these people were taking were just things and they can be bought again. The wife, fed up by the craziness, decides to pack a bag and leave, but when she exits her room, she sees the people in a line, waiting to be marked. Going down the stairs, she sees these people being hysterical and unreasonable with their actions. She walks past them and even tries to escape the crazy reporter that has been bugging her all night. She steps into what is supposed to be the child's room and sees that the people are stealing the baby crib. As she goes to stop these people, her leg falls into the hole on the ground. What was once a covered small hole had become even bigger and bloodier. The situation in the house gets worse. More people are coming in and they are getting even more violent. People are breaking walls, turning chairs and attacking each other. The wife gets close to the door, but she is stopped by the fans. They are begging her not to leave because the husband loves her. The poet finds her and begs her as well. As they are arguing, the wife experiences pain in her stomach. The police burst into the house and they start arresting everyone. The wife tries to get help from them, but they try to put her in handcuffs. The poet sees this and tries to protect his wife, but they mace him. Some of the mace gets onto the wife's eyes and she is unable to see. She pulls herself into the bathroom to wash the maze of her eyes. The desire to escape is stronger as she fights her way out of the public. She is pushed to the ground by the fans and she sees the lighter she had previously thrown. The lighter falls to the basement through the bloody hole. The police are fighting the people. There are gunshots, fire, and mass destruction of the property. She pushes the people until she gets to the living room, where she sees a horrid situation where the reporter shoots 4 people with a gun. When the reporter sees her, she orders her people to tie her up and tries to kill her as well. However, she is interrupted by a loud explosion that kills her. The wife is free, but at what cost? A police officer sees her and tries to help her. He takes her to a corner where he thought that was safe, but ends up being shot in the head. The wife is horrified and tries to escape through a hole that was there because of the explosion. As she gets closer, her husband catches up to her and doesn't let her escape through there, but makes her come with him to a room he considered safe. They try to get through the crowd unnoticed, but the people recognize their hero, the poet. The crowd gets wild, but one fan helps the poet and his wife escape by taking them to the upper floor. As the wife is sat on the stairs, the husband tries to open the sealed door as it was the room that no one had come in. They get into the room and lock it from the inside. The wife delivers the baby but dares not go outside the room. It gets quiet and the husband opens the door to check what had happened. He takes a basket of fruits and water that was left for them by the fans, along with some clothes for the mother. The wife asks the poet to make the people leave the house, but he refuses and says that he wants them to be there. He asks her to give him the baby so the people can see it. She refuses to let him touch the baby and keeps it close to herself. Some time passes and the poet still haven't left the wife's side. She doesn't trust and dares not to fall asleep as she is afraid that he will give the baby to the crowd. She falls asleep from exhaustion and wakes up to a loud cheering and no baby by her side. Her husband has taken the baby. She sees him in the crowd and runs to him. However, it's too late. The baby goes through the crowd and the crowd gets silent as the mother rushes through them to find her child. She gets to the front where a man reassures her that the baby is fine. She asks where the baby is, but he tells her that it is among them. As she turns around, she sees that the people are mourning, but all of them are doing something no one could even imagine. She can't believe what was happening and tries to stop the people from doing that. She loses it as she starts attacking the people around her. The group joins together and starts beating her, throwing her on the ground and kicking her. The poet gets to her in time to save her from getting brutally killed. He tells her that they will have to find a way to forgive them and that this might be a good thing that will change everything. The wife screams in the poet's face that he is a murderer and that is about time everyone gets out of her house. She storms off the room and continues to another. On the way, she finds the lighter that she had previously hid from the doctor on the ground and takes it. She heads out and gets pushed by the crowd down the stairs, leaving her in the basement. She rushes to the secret entrance that she had found and opens the barrels, letting the fuel leak out onto the ground. As she does that, the poet comes down and begs her not to do it. She throws the lighter and the whole house lights on fire. She is seen in the fire as a tear escapes her beautiful eyes. The poet takes the burnt corpse of the wife out of the fire and lays her on a bed. She asks him what he is. He replies that he is he and she was home. He tells her that he is taking her to the beginning, and that's when the repeated cycle is about to begin. The poet asks one more thing from her. He wants her love that is still inside the wife's heart. He reaches into her burnt corpse and pulls out her burned heart. He squeezes it into his hand, which makes the beautiful crystal that was once broken. As he takes the crystal, he sets it on the display and the house is filled with life again. The house is renewed and a new wife wakes up from the bed, and so does the hellish cycle begin once more.